When the HOA president tried to get rid of me, she had no idea she was stepping into her own nightmare. I'd always dreamed of having a backyard of my own. Not a whole house, just a space big enough for me, Ethan Hayes, 16 years old, to shoot hoops and fly the homemade drones I'd sweated over, piecing them together with money from my part-time job in Austin. When my parents said we were moving to Willow Creek, Texas, I didn't argue. The new house was a 2-story brick place in this suburban neighborhood, with a wide backyard, an old basketball hoop dangling, and a neatly trimmed green lawn. It was everything I wanted: peaceful, comfortable, a spot to enjoy my teenage years without anyone bothering me. The family pickup truck pulled up to the house on a mild sunny afternoon. I hopped out, backpack weighing on my shoulders, eyes lighting up as I spotted the backyard through the low wooden fence. The house sat at the end of an oak-shaded street in Willow Creek, with a stone-paved front porch and big windows overlooking the lawn. My dad, Tom, clapped me on the shoulder, grinning wide. "See that, Ethan? That backyard's all yours." I nodded, smirking. I could already hear the swish of the basketball hitting the net, the hum of drone motors buzzing overhead. My mom, Laura, stepped out of the passenger seat, cradling a box of homemade cookies. "I'll take some cookies to the neighbors," she said, her voice chipper. "Get to know them a bit for fun." But I didn't care about that. I just wanted to get to the backyard right away. But then I turned around, and everything felt off. Through the fence, I caught sneaky stares. An older woman stood on the porch next door, holding a watering can but staring right at me, unblinking. A man walking his dog passed by, his steps slowing, head tilting toward me like he was sizing me up. The curtains across the street twitched. Someone was peeking, I was sure of it. I frowned, unease creeping in. Back in Austin, neighbors weren't exactly warm right off the bat, but they didn't look at me like I was an intruder. I waved at the woman with the watering can, trying to be friendly. "Hi there," I said, my voice awkward. She didn't reply, just turned away, pretending to tend her flower beds. I shrugged. Maybe they're just reserved, I told myself. Maybe they'll warm up after a few weeks. Dad called me from inside. "Ethan, come help me with the dining table." I trudged back, but not before tossing one more shot. This time it went in, the swish sounding soft and satisfying. I nodded, pleased. Willow Creek might not feel like home right away, but this backyard would be mine. I wanted it to be a peaceful place, somewhere I could forget the noise of the old city. But as I stepped inside and shut the glass door, those stares stuck in my mind. They weren't just curious, they carried a chill, like I didn't belong here. I didn't know that, just a few hours later, my dream of that backyard would turn into a nightmare I'd never even imagined. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the latest video. The next morning, I woke up to birds chirping outside my new bedroom window. Sunlight slipped through the blinds, casting streaks across the wooden floor. I rolled out of bed, slipped on my sneakers, and decided to head to the backyard to fix that rusty basketball hoop. I wanted it sturdier, so every shot would hit the mark without the rim wobbling. I grabbed Dad's small toolbox, stepped through the sliding glass door, and started tightening bolts. The screech of metal echoed in the quiet of Willow Creek. I liked this feeling. Just me, the backyard, and a simple task in my hands, but that peace didn't last long. I just tightened the last bolt when I heard a sharp knock from the front of the house. Not the friendly neighbor with welcome cookies knock, it was crisp, quick, like someone impatient. I frowned, wiped my hands on my shirt, and went inside. Mom was in the kitchen, hands covered in dough, so I opened the door myself. Standing there was a woman about 60, stiff as a telephone pole. She wore a neatly pressed beige blouse, pearl earrings, and a small badge on her chest that said HOA. Her posture was rigid, her face expressionless, but her eyes were icy, looking at me like I was a stain on her clean carpet. "Hi there," she said, her voice clipped, no warmth. "I'm Margaret Voss, president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association." I blinked, a bit thrown, then stuck out my hand, forcing a polite smile. "I'm Ethan, nice to meet you." But before I could finish, she cut me off. "I know who you are," she said, her eyes flicking past me into the house. "I'm here to discuss a few things." She handed me a thick stack of papers, stapled at the corner. I took it, flipping through a few pages, all HOA rules, maximum grass height, exterior paint colors, approved mailbox styles, normal stuff, I guessed. But then Margaret cleared her throat, pulling my attention back. "We like to maintain a certain standard here," she said, her gaze fixed on the toolbox I'd left near the glass door. "I saw you tinkering in the backyard this morning. That basketball hoop, has it been approved?" I blinked, staring at her. "I just fixed it, it was already here." Margaret nodded, but not in a satisfied way, more like she was mentally filing it for later. "Fine," she said, "but I want to ensure everything's up to code. And by the way, I saw your trash bins out by the street last night. The rule is they can only go out after 6 a.m. on pickup day." I frowned, keeping my voice steady. "I didn't put the trash out, it must have been the previous owners." Margaret pursed her lips, her eyes narrowing like she didn't buy it. "I see," she said, but her tone said she didn't see at all. "Just be mindful in the future. We have rules for a reason." Then she turned and walked off, leaving me standing there with the papers in hand and a sour feeling in my gut. I shut the door, sighing. "What the hell," I muttered, tossing the stack onto the kitchen table. Maybe she was just a nitpicker. I'd heard HOA folks could be like that. I wasn't about to let some grumpy lady ruin my first day here. But as I headed back to the yard, and picked up the basketball for a test shot, I couldn't shake the sense that Margaret Voss wasn't just picky. She was watching me, and not because of the hoop or the trash. There was something in her eyes I couldn't place, but I knew one thing for sure, she didn't want me here. And that was just the beginning. After that run-in with Margaret Voss, I tried not to dwell on her. I told myself she was just a control freak, and if I kept things tidy, she'd leave me alone. I was wrong. A few days later, I started realizing Margaret wasn't just strict, she was targeting me, and my backyard was the bullseye. It started one morning, when I went to grab the mail from the box out front. Among the ads and bills, I found a small white envelope stamped with the Willow Creek Homeowners Association logo. I opened it, frowning at the bold text, "Violation notice, backyard grass exceeds permitted height, 2 inches. I froze. Backyard grass, I just mowed it yesterday, after fixing the hoop. I glanced over the fence, the lawn still looked neat, nothing worth complaining about. But the notice demanded I correct it within 24 hours, or face a fine. I shrugged, figuring Margaret was just flexing, and stuffed the paper in my pocket. But that wasn't the end. 2 days later, another notice showed up in the mailbox, unapproved object, basketball left in backyard overnight. I laughed reading it. A basketball, I'd forgotten it out there once while flying my drone, but it was just an old ball, not a bomb or anything. I brought it inside, muttering, "She's got way too much time." I still tried to stay calm, not wanting to escalate things. Mom saw me with the paper and asked, "What now, Ethan?" I told her, and she chuckled lightly. Maybe she just wants the neighborhood perfect. Humor her, and she'll get bored. But Margaret didn't get bored. The third notice came the next day, this time about my drone. Hazardous flying device, prohibited in residential area, unless approved. I read it, and felt my anger choke me. I'd only flown the drone in my own backyard, never past the fence, bothering no one. I looked out the glass door, remembering yesterday's test flight. Margaret had been standing across the street, notebook in hand, staring at me like a hawk hunting prey. She'd watched me from a distance, jotting down every move. I started feeling uneasy. To check if I was imagining things, I walked around Willow Creek one afternoon. I scoped out other backyards. One house had trash bins out all day, another had grass taller than my ankles, and one even had weathered plastic chairs strewn about. But no violation notices for them, just me. I went home and told Dad. He frowned but said, "Stay cool, Ethan. Maybe she's tough on newbies, let Mom and me talk to her." I nodded, but deep down, I didn't think talking would fix this. That night, I went to the backyard to shoot hoops, trying to shake the watched feeling. But when I looked up, there she was, Margaret Voss, standing at the street corner down from my house. She didn't come closer, just stood there, notebook in hand, staring. I stopped, the ball rolling out of my hands, hairs standing on end. She wasn't just sending notices, she was surveilling me, like I was a threat to eliminate. I turned back inside, slammed the glass door shut, heart racing. What's wrong with her? I asked myself, but got no answer. I started realizing this wasn't about grass or basketballs. Margaret didn't like me, or rather she didn't want me here. The backyard, my little paradise, now felt like a battlefield I didn't ask for. I didn't know what she'd do next, but I had a bad feeling those papers were just the start, and I was right. Things were about to get much worse. After those relentless violation notices, I got more cautious. I couldn't relax in the backyard shooting hoops or flying my drone, without glancing around, worried Margaret Voss was lurking, taking notes, but I didn't expect her to take it this far. One evening, as the sunset faded, I decided to unwind in the backyard. I brought out the basketball, sank a few shots, the steady swish, helping me forget those damn notices in the mailbox. I figured if I kept quiet, she'd get tired and back off. I was wrong. I was on my fifth shot, when I heard a loud banging from the front door. Not a normal knock, it was urgent, like someone wanted to break it down. I frowned, let the ball roll onto the grass, and ran inside. Mom was washing dishes in the kitchen, Dad watching TV in the living room. "Who's that?" Dad asked, but I beat them to the door. I opened it, and there stood two cops, a tall guy with a bushy beard, and a shorter one with a notepad. My heart pounded. "Who are you?" the tall one asked, his voice deep unfriendly. "I'm Ethan Hayes. I live here," I said, keeping my voice steady, despite my spinning head. "What's going on?" The shorter cop eyed me, then looked past me into the house. "We got a report of a trespasser in this backyard. What were you doing out there?" I blinked, not believing my ears. A trespasser, in my own yard. I glanced at the sliding glass door, then back at them. "I wasn't trespassing, it's my yard, I was just shooting hoops." They didn't seem convinced. "We need to check," the tall one said, stepping 1 foot over the threshold. I panicked, turning to yell, "Dad, Mom, come here." Dad got up from his chair. Mom wiped her hands and rushed over, both confused. "What's this, Ethan?" Mom asked, then saw the cops. "What are you here for?" The shorter cop repeated, "Report of a stranger in the backyard, we have to verify." I glanced out the living room window, and there she was, Margaret Voss, standing across the street, arms crossed, staring at our house, like it was a show. "Her," I pointed, my voice rising with anger. "Margaret Voss, she called you, didn't she? She thinks I'm a trespasser." Dad stepped up, hand on my shoulder. "Easy, Ethan, I'll handle this." He turned to the cops explaining, "We just moved in. This is our house. I've got papers in the kitchen. I'll grab them." He went in, rifled through a drawer, and came back with the deed. The cops looked it over, nodded, and handed it back. "Looks good," the tall one said. "Sorry for the trouble, but we have to check reports." They left, heading to their patrol car parked nearby. I watched, seeing Margaret still standing there, face blank. Only when the cops drove off did she turn and walk away, like nothing happened. I shut the door, fists clenched. "She's nuts," I muttered. Mom hugged my shoulders, voice worried. "Why would she do that? Did you do something to her?" I shook my head. "I didn't do anything. I was just playing ball in the yard." Dad sighed, sinking into his chair. "Maybe she doesn't like newcomers. Mom and I will talk to the HOA." But I didn't think talking would cut it. I went to the glass door, staring at the now dark backyard. The basketball still sat on the grass where I'd left it. I felt humiliated, not because I'd done anything wrong, but because the whole neighborhood probably saw cops at our house. I pictured them whispering behind curtains. "The new kid's already trouble." I turned to my parents. "If she thinks calling the cops will scare me off the backyard, she's wrong." Dad nodded, but his eyes were worried. "Stay calm, Ethan, don't let her get to you." I didn't reply, just went upstairs and shut my door. But inside, I was burning. Margaret wasn't just sending papers, she wanted me out of my own yard. And if she thought I'd give up, she was in for a big surprise. After the cop incident, I couldn't sit still anymore. Margaret Voss wasn't just sending petty notices, she'd called the police, accusing me of trespassing in my own backyard. I was so mad I wanted to punch something, but I knew that just give her more ammo. I had to fight back. If she thought I was some kid she could scare off, she was dead wrong. I decided to figure out what was really going on in this Willow Creek neighborhood, myself. The next morning, I got up early, grabbed my phone, and headed out. I told Mom I was walking to clear my head, but I had a plan. I wanted to see if Margaret treated everyone like she did me, or if I was her only target. I strolled slowly around the neighborhood, eyes on every backyard, every trash bin, every little detail she'd nitpicked me for. It didn't take long to see the truth. First, I saw the house next door. Its backyard was full of weeds taller than my ankles. No sign of trimming in weeks. I snapped a photo, noted it. Then I kept going, spotting a house with trash bins out, not pickup day, lid wide open, bags spilling out. I took another picture. Another place had old weathered plastic chairs scattered in the yard, hardly the standard Margaret preached, but no violation notices, taped to their doors, no cops knocking. My face started heating up. I went home, pulled out Margaret's notices to me, and reread them. Grass over 2 inches, basketball left out, drone a hazard, all laughably petty. But the neighbors, their violations were 100 times worse, and they got nothing. I sat at the kitchen table, opened my laptop, and typed an email to the Willow Creek HOA. Dear HOA, I wrote, I'm Ethan Hayes, new resident. I'd like to know why my backyard gets fined for grass height and a basketball, while other houses have overgrown lawns and trash out of place with no issues. I attached my photos, hit send, and waited. But I wasn't shocked when no one replied. Instead, the next day, another notice appeared in the mailbox. Violation, unapproved flying device, second offense. I read it and wanted to scream. I hadn't flown the drone since the cop visit, yet she still dug for something. I looked out the glass door, and sure enough, there was Margaret, standing at the street corner down from my house, notebook in hand, staring at my backyard. She wasn't giving up, she wanted me scared off. I shoved the paper into a drawer, with the growing stack. I didn't tell Mom and Dad this time. They'd just say stay calm, but they didn't get it. This wasn't about grass or drones anymore. Margaret didn't just want to control the neighborhood, she wanted me gone. I didn't know why, but I felt it in her stare. She didn't like me here, didn't like my backyard, didn't like me. I stood at the glass door, looking at the darkening yard. The basketball still lay where I'd left it since the cops came. I'd thought this place would be my little haven, but now it felt like a trap Margaret had set. I clenched my fists, telling myself, if she wants to play, I'll play. I wasn't letting her win that easily. I'd seen enough to know she wasn't fair, and I'd prove it whatever it took. But I didn't expect that. The moment I started pushing back, she'd hit even harder. After sending that HOA email with no response, I knew I couldn't just wait. Margaret Voss clearly wasn't stopping, and neither was I. I'd seen how unfair she was. My backyard scrutinized down to every blade of grass, while neighbors left trash everywhere with no fuss. I decided to keep using my yard like normal, refusing to let her intimidate me. But this time, I'd be ready if she pulled something. One afternoon, I took my drone to the backyard. I hadn't flown it since the last cop visit, but today I wanted to try again, not to provoke Margaret, but to prove I could do what I wanted in my own home. I started the motor, hearing the tiny buzz as it lifted off. It looped around the yard a few times, staying inside the fence, not loud at all. I smiled, feeling a bit of freedom return. But then I glanced at the street, and saw her. Margaret stood on the sidewalk, a ways from my house, arms crossed, staring at the drone like it was a spy plane. I muttered, here we go again. Less than 10 minutes later, I heard rapid knocking at the front door. I landed the drone, ran inside, and opened it before Mom or Dad could react. 2 cops stood there, not the same ones as before, but a skinny middle-aged guy, and a younger woman, both stern. You Ethan Hayes? The man asked, voice flat. I nodded, heart racing, but staying cool. What's up? We got a report of an unidentified flying device over the neighborhood, the woman said, peering past me to the backyard. Someone said it's spying on neighbors. I laughed, couldn't help it. Spying? I flew my drone in my yard, didn't go beyond the fence. Who reported it? I turned my head to look outside. Margaret was still there, face stone cold, notebook in hand, like she was waiting to see me cuffed. But this time, I was prepared. "Hold on," I told the cops, then dashed to the kitchen. I grabbed the house deed from the drawer. Dad kept it in after last time, then pulled up my phone, finding the video I'd shot yesterday. I deliberately recorded myself flying the drone in the yard, just in case. I handed them the deed. "This is my house, the yard's mine." Then I played the video. "This is from yesterday, me flying the drone in the yard, not past the fence. I'm not spying on anyone." The skinny cop looked over the deed, then the video, nodding. The woman frowned, glancing out at Margaret, still standing on the street. "You sure you didn't fly it outside your yard?" she asked. I nodded. "I'm not dumb enough to do that. I just tested the drone in my yard." They finished watching, exchanged a few quiet words, then the man sighed. "All right, looks like there's no issue." But before leaving, he turned to me, his voice sterner. "Mrs. Voss has reported you twice now. If there's another call without clear evidence, we'll warn her about false reports." They walked to their car, and I stood at the door, staring at Margaret. She didn't turn away right off. Her eyes narrowed, lips pursed tight, like she was mad her plan flopped. I didn't say anything, just stared back, gripping the doorframe. When the cops drove off, she finally turned and walked away, but I knew she wasn't done. I shut the door, heading inside. Mom rushed over, worried. "What happened now, Ethan?" I told her, still pissed. She called the cops over the drone, said I was spying, but this time I had proof. Dad stepped out from the living room, frowning. "She's really out of line, let Mom and me talk to the HOA." But I shook my head. "No need. I'll handle it." I went upstairs, sat on my bed, and opened my laptop. I knew those notices and cop visits weren't random. Margaret wanted me scared, wanted me to give up the backyard, but this time, she failed, and I had a feeling she wouldn't stop here. I needed to do something bigger, not just to protect myself, but to make her pay. I started thinking about the HOA board. If they wouldn't answer my email, I'd bring the proof to them in person. She wanted to play, I'd play to the end. After that second cop visit, I knew I couldn't face Margaret Voss alone anymore. She wasn't just calling the cops, she was making stuff up, spying with my drone. Ridiculous, but I also realized she had power in Willow Creek, and if I wanted to win, I needed help. I had proof. Photos of neighbors' violations, the drone video, but I needed someone who knew the HOA better than me. Lucky for me, I didn't have to look far. One afternoon, I was sitting on the front porch, reviewing the video on my phone, when a girl rode by. She was about 15, ponytail bouncing, earbuds in, pedaling slowly. She stopped, looked at me, and pulled out her earbuds. "You're the kid the cops came for, right?" she asked bluntly, her voice curious with a hint of teasing. I frowned, a bit annoyed, but nodded. "Yeah, that's me." "How'd you know?" She smirked, hopping off her bike. "I'm Riley Parker. I live down the street. The whole neighborhood knows about you and Mrs. Voss now." She called the cops a second time, huh? I nodded again, surprised she was so clued in. Riley sat on the steps next to me, without waiting for an invite. "She once fined my house for my birthday party, said it was too loud. My dad's on the HOA board, but he doesn't dare argue with her." "Nobody does." I looked at Riley, feeling like I'd struck gold. "Your dad's on the HOA? What do you know about her?" Riley shrugged, but her eyes lit up. "She's the president, loves controlling everything. If she doesn't like someone, they're miserable. You're just her latest target." I told Riley everything, from the grass notices, the basketball, the drone, to the 2 cop visits. I showed her the photos of neighbors' violations I'd taken. "Look at this, other houses leave trash out, let grass grow wild, and nothing happens. Just me." Riley looked them over, nodding. "Classic Voss. She's not fair, but the HOA doesn't do anything, because they're scared." I leaned toward Riley, lowering my voice. "I want to take this to the HOA. I've got proof, photos, videos, but I don't know how to do it. Can you help?" Riley grinned, a mischievous look I didn't expect. "Heck yeah, I've hated her for ages, but you need to go bigger than email. Bring the proof to an HOA meeting, in front of everyone. My dad says there's an emergency one next week. Probably about you. I nodded, excitement rising. What do I need? Riley thought for a second, then said, more direct evidence. I'll help you record her harassing you, like when she stands outside watching you. And I'll ask my dad if there's a way to make the board listen. I agreed instantly. Thanks, Riley. If we pull this off, I owe you pizza. Riley laughed. Throw in ice cream, and I'm in. That night, I sat in my room, opened my laptop, and organized my evidence. I had the neighbor's violation photos, the drone video, and a plan with Riley to catch Margaret watching me. I knew she wouldn't expect me to fight back. She thought I was just a scared kid. But I wasn't scared anymore. I wanted her humiliated in front of the whole neighborhood, so everyone could see how unfair she was. I texted Riley, "Can you come by tomorrow morning? Wanna start recording?" She replied right away, "Yup, bringing the good phone." I looked out my window at the dark backyard. Margaret could be out there right now, but I didn't care. I had a plan, an ally, and for the first time, I felt in control. She wanted to make my backyard a nightmare, but I'd turn her HOA into a joke. I just had to wait for that meeting, and I'd make her regret messing with me. With Riley on board, I spent the week prepping. We caught a video of Margaret standing on the street, staring at my backyard, scribbling notes like I was a criminal. I organized the neighbor's violation photos, drone videos, and both cop visits into a tidy file on my laptop. Riley said the emergency HOA meeting was tonight, and her dad, James Parker, confirmed it was about me. I knew this was my one shot to take down Margaret Voss. I wasn't letting her make my backyard a nightmare anymore. The meeting was held in Willow Creek's community room, a small space with a long table, folding chairs, and the stale smell of old coffee in the air. When I walked in with Mom and Dad, it felt like the whole neighborhood was there. Neighbors filled the seats, whispering to each other, eyes flicking toward me. Margaret sat at the head of the table, in her usual beige blouse with the HOA badge, her face cold as ever. Next to her were James Parker, and a few other board members, looking uneasy. Riley sat near me, giving me a quick wink for encouragement. I took a deep breath, set my laptop down, ready. Margaret tapped the table lightly. Her voice cutting through, "We're here today to address issues with the new resident, Ethan Hayes. There have been multiple complaints about his behavior, using a dangerous flying device, disrupting the neighborhood." She glanced at me, her lips curling slightly like she was winning. "I propose the board consider fines or a ban on his backyard use, if violations continue." Murmurs spread through the room. I clenched my fists under the table, but Riley whispered, "Stay cool, your turn's coming." I stood up, my voice a bit shaky but holding steady. "I want to speak." Margaret pursed her lips, about to cut me off, but James raised a hand. "Let him talk, Margaret." I nodded thanks, opened my laptop, and hooked it to the projector Riley had set up. "I'm not causing trouble," I started. "But Mrs. Voss has targeted me since I moved in." I played the first video, me flying the drone in my backyard, staying inside the fence. "This is my drone. I flew it in my yard, not spying on anyone. But Mrs. Voss called the cops twice, saying I was trespassing and spying." The murmurs grew louder. I kept going, showing the video of Margaret watching me from the street. "Here she is, stalking me, noting everything I do in my yard. She sent notices for grass height, a basketball, the drone, all petty stuff." I switched to the neighbor's violation photos, trash out on wrong days, overgrown grass, old chairs in yards. "But look at this. Other houses break rules worse than me, and no one gets fined. Why just me?" Margaret shot up, her voice icy. "You're a threat to this neighborhood. Neighbors have complained about you." I turned to her, done holding back. "Who complained? Name them." She pursed her lips, silent. Riley snorted beside me. "She's making it up." I asked around, nobody complained. An old man at the back, Riley called him Mr. Grayson, spoke up, "I didn't complain about the kid." "Margaret, you're blowing this out of proportion." The room got noisy. I seized the moment, speaking louder. "She doesn't want me here. She called the cops twice, but I have the deed and videos proving I did nothing wrong. The cops even warned her about false reports." I looked around, seeing some nods. I just want peace in my backyard. But Miss Voss wants to control everything, unfairly targeting me while nobody dares call her out. Margaret slammed the table, her face red. You don't respect HOA rules. I'm protecting this neighborhood. But James raised a hand, his voice firm. Enough, Margaret. The kids got evidence. What about you? She froze, clutching the papers in front of her. I glanced at Riley. She winked. Now, she whispered. I took a breath and said, I move to remove Mrs. Voss as HOA president. She's abused her power, harassed me for no reason. Who's with me? Riley raised her hand first. I'm in. Mr. Grayson went next. Me too. She's been out of line too long. A few others hesitated, then slowly raised their hands. James looked around, sighed. All right, let's vote. The result was clear fast. Most hands were up. Margaret went pale, standing abruptly. You'll all regret this. She snapped, grabbing her papers and storming out, her heels clacking on the floor. The room stayed quiet for a moment, then murmurs started again. James tapped the table. Margaret Voss is officially removed as president of the Willow Creek HOA. I sat down, heart still pounding. Riley slapped my shoulder. You did it. I grinned, relief flooding me. I'd won, not just saved my backyard, but taken her power away. But as I looked at the door she'd stormed through, I knew she wasn't one to let go easily. For now though, I had the whole neighborhood behind me. After the HOA meeting, I felt like a weight had lifted off my chest. Margaret Voss was removed in front of the whole neighborhood, and for the first time since moving to Willow Creek, I didn't feel her suspicious eyes from afar. But I knew she wasn't the type to lose without a fight. I was right, but I didn't expect the fallout to come so fast. A few days later, Riley told me Margaret tried holding a private meeting with a few of her supporters, demanding they overturn the decision. Nobody bit. Mr. Grayson, who'd spoken up for me, told her flat out, "You've caused enough trouble, Margaret. Don't make it worse." Riley cracked up recounting it, saying Margaret's face turned purple as she left that meeting in silence. Not long after, a for sale sign went up in front of her house. From my bedroom window, I saw strangers coming and going to check out the place. Margaret and her husband, a quiet old guy I rarely saw, packed up and left in the night. No goodbyes. They moved somewhere outside Willow Creek, and I didn't care much. She was gone, and that was enough. The neighborhood started changing after that. The HOA, now led by James Parker, stopped sending pointless notices. They tackled real violations, like trash out on wrong days or overgrown grass, but fairly no targeting. I noticed some neighbors mowing more regularly, and for the first time, I didn't worry about being watched when I went to the backyard. Not everyone was quick to admit fault though. One afternoon, the lady who'd watered her flowers that first day, staring at me like an outsider, brought cookies to our house. She knocked, mumbling, "I didn't know Mrs. Voss was doing that to you." Sorry. I took the plate, nodded, but didn't smile. A late apology didn't erase weeks of harassment. Riley told me not to dwell on it. "They're just embarrassed they stayed quiet," she said, munching on cookies Mom made in the backyard. "You're the neighborhood hero now." I snorted. Hero, my foot. I just wanted my yard in peace. But I had to admit, being respected felt good. I didn't catch curtains twitching when I went out to shoot hoops anymore. No whispers behind my back. Some folks even waved as they passed, small but enough to make me feel like I belonged. One night, I sat in my room, looking out at the backyard through the window. Margaret's notices were in the trash now, and I didn't have to fear cops knocking. She lost, not just because I had proof, but because she dug her own grave. If she hadn't targeted me, she'd still be HOA president, controlling everyone. But her arrogance cost her everything: power, respect, even her home in Willow Creek. I didn't feel happy about it, but I didn't feel sorry either. Mom came in, setting a glass of lemonade on my desk. "You did great, Ethan," she said, smiling. "I didn't know you had that kind of patience." I shrugged. I wasn't patient, I just didn't want to lose to her. Mom laughed, leaving the room, letting me sit with my thoughts. Margaret might be gone, but I knew this neighborhood still had its corners. I just hoped nobody else would face another Margaret. As for me, I got my backyard back, and that's all I wanted from the start. After Margaret Voss left Willow Creek, things settled into normal, or really became normal, for the first time since I moved here. My backyard wasn't a battlefield anymore. I could go out there, shoot hoops, fly my drone, or just lie on the grass without worrying who was watching. The neighborhood changed too, no more tense vibe like when Margaret ran things. I didn't expect to feel at ease here, but it was happening. One afternoon, I took the basketball to the backyard. I'd fixed the hoop again, now it was solid, no rust, and every shot hit clean. Riley rode by, saw me, and hopped off her bike to join. "Watch out, I'm stealing that ball." She laughed, snatching it from me and chucking a wild miss. I cracked up, chasing it down. Soon, a few other neighborhood kids, ones I'd never talked to before, ran over. "Let us play," one shouted. I shrugged. "Sure, but don't wreck my hoop." Laughter and the thump of the ball filled the yard. Mom stepped onto the back porch, carrying a pitcher of lemonade and some cups. "Drink up, kids, don't get parched," she called, setting it down before heading inside. Dad yelled from the house, "Watch the tree, Ethan. Don't let those kids break it." I laughed, tossing the ball to Riley. "Chill, Dad, the neighborhood's free of HOA Karens now." Dad shook his head, but I caught his grin through the glass. As the sun set, the kids headed home, leaving me and Riley on the grass. She took a gulp of lemonade, looking at me. "See, told you you're a hero." I shook my head, smirking. "Not a hero, I just wanted my yard." Riley shrugged. "Still changed the whole neighborhood, not bad." I didn't reply, just looked at the now quiet yard. She was partly right, I didn't just save my backyard. I made people open up, but I didn't do it for them. I did it for me. That night, I sat in my room, window open to let the crickets' chirps drift in. I thought back over the past weeks, from the first day of stairs, to the stupid notices, to the cops knocking twice. Margaret Voss wanted me to feel like I didn't belong, wanted me to give up the backyard I dreamed of. She thought her power came from rules, her HOA badge, from scaring me. But she was wrong. Real power was me standing up, not letting her take what mattered to me. Mom knocked, coming in with a plate of cookies. "Made these for you kids this afternoon, but you were too busy playing." She smiled, setting them down. I grabbed one, took a bite, sweet, a bit dry, but good. "Thanks, Mom," I said. She sat beside me. "You okay, Ethan?" After all that, I nodded. "I'm good, really good now." She smiled, left the room, and I was alone with my thoughts. I looked out at the backyard through the window, moonlight hitting the hoop. I'd taken it back, not just from Margaret, but from a neighborhood that turned its back on me at first. I learned that sometimes, people will try to control you, make you feel small, but if you know who you are and don't let them take that away, you'll win. Willow Creek was my home now. Not because of the neighbors, but because I fought to make it so. I smirked, turned off the light, and lay down. My backyard was safe, and so was I. Ethan Hayes' story in Willow Creek reflects a common reality in American society today. The clash between individuals and community rules sometimes abused, especially in suburban neighborhoods with HOAs, homeowners associations. Ethan, a 16-year-old new to town, just wanted to enjoy his backyard, shooting hoops, flying drones, but was harassed by Margaret Voss, the HOA president, with violation notices, and 2 baseless cop calls for trespassing, or spying. This isn't far from modern American life, where HOAs often spark controversy for rigid rules, sometimes driven by personal bias, rather than the common good. Ethan faced suspicious stares from neighbors, their initial silence, and pressure from Margaret, a symbol of petty power you can find in tight-knit communities today. The lesson from Ethan isn't just patience, it's proactively defending your rights smartly. He didn't just endure, he took photos of neighbors' violations, recorded proof, teamed up with Riley, and presented at the HOA meeting to oust Margaret. In American life, where personal freedom is prized but can be chipped away by Margarets and communities, you need to know your rights, like Ethan with his deed, and use modern tools, videos, emails to prove your case. Don't wait for others to speak for you, like Ethan's neighbors who stayed quiet at first. Find allies like Riley, and act decisively but legally. In the end, when Ethan reclaimed his yard and fit in, he showed that resilience doesn't just save your space, it can change a community. A practical lesson for anyone navigating sometimes unfair rules in America today. If you enjoyed Ethan's story of fighting to protect his backyard from Mrs. Margaret Voss, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more exciting videos. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one, with more dramatic stories from neighborhoods like Willow Creek.